Welcome back to another Health Hackers tech review video. This device on my wrist is called Apollo. The makers say it is designed to help you take control of how you feel, to calm anxiety, to help you unwind and get to sleep, to increase focus, recover after workouts, help you feel energized, and even nudge you into feeling more sociable around other people. It's not supposed to do all of those at the same time. There are different modes you can select. You'll see what I mean in a minute. Now, I'm told Apollo works like meditation, but through your sense of touch. It's meant to signal safety to your brain through vibrations on your skin. Those vibrations are actually low frequency sound waves that you can't hear, but you can feel. I have been wearing this every day as part of a 2-week trial, and I've interviewed the psychiatrist who co-developed Apollo to get some deeper insights for you. But just quickly, I need to tell you, if at any point during this video you feel like you're enjoying watching or you're finding it genuinely interesting, it would be wonderful if you would hit the like button or even subscribe, because seeing your support for this channel really does mean a lot, so thank you. Right, let's go back now to the unboxing, then the interview. There are some mini updates from me throughout the video, and then my final likes and dislikes are at the end. So Apollo arrived already on the wristband, but there is a longer strap in the box too for your ankle. It's recommended that you wear the device on the inside of your wrist or ankle, although they also say you can wear it on the outside of either. And apparently many people find it soothing on the ankle, especially for sleep. Linking the device to the app was straightforward. After creating an account, I put in a few details and was shown what the 2 buttons on the side of Apollo do. Pressing them together will pause or play the vibrations when you start using the different goal-based modes that you can choose from, while individually they either increase or decrease the intensity. For my first Apollo session this morning, I used the energy and wake up mode, wearing it on my ankle. I found the wristband is actually big enough for my ankle too. I set the intensity to only 20% because that's what the Apollo information suggests you begin with. Apparently, putting it on a higher intensity does not make it more effective. It's not meant to feel distracting. And I selected the maximum duration for that mode, 30 minutes. When it's on, you just feel intermittent, gentle vibrations. Unfortunately, during and after using the energy and wake up mode, I didn't feel any noticeable effects. But shortly afterwards, I set it to calm and focus while I watched TV, and within about 20 minutes, I felt like I could fall asleep. Dave, tell me, what is Apollo doing to my body?
Apollo was developed as a technology at the University of Pittsburgh, where I was doing research on neuroscience and the ways that we could use strategies that have been known in cognitive neuroscience from the studies of biofeedback and the way that we learn how to induce a state of safety in the body, because safety is well known to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which is this nervous system that is critical for the recovery response in our bodies. And so this system counterbalances the sympathetic system, which we all know is the fight or flight nervous system. And there's also a freeze, play dead response in there that we sometimes leave out, but that's a critical part of the sympathetic fight or flight system. And so these 2 systems work together constantly in our bodies to divert resources back and forth between managing stress and managing really survival on the sympathetic fight or flight side, and then managing recovery, sleep, creativity, reproduction, digestion, all of the things that we need in our bodies to feel good when we're at rest and when we feel safe. So the balance between these systems is fundamentally disrupted in people who have PTSD, depression, anxiety, chronic pain, insomnia, and we see this all the time. And I'm a psychiatrist and a neuroscientist, and I have seen hundreds of patients, if not thousands of patients, who have had these different kinds of conditions and seen the commonalities. And the research and the literature have described this very well. And so during my research at the university on treatment-resistant depression and post-traumatic stress disorder, I started to look at ways that we could change this balance between the stress response system, which is tends to be overactive in these patients, and the recovery response system, which tends to be underactive in these patients. And maybe through using evolutionarily conserved mechanisms like human touch, which we've known for centuries, if not millennia, has been one of the most evolutionarily conserved ways that we convey safety to one another, that helps to boost activity in the system and help restore a sense of calm and present focus in the moment with the touch pathway. And so we developed Apollo based on this knowledge and based on the understanding of breathwork and biofeedback to effectively help nudge us into a state of mindful presentness by sending these positive safety signals, which are in the form of gentle, soothing vibrations that kind of feel like an ocean wave washing over our bodies. It's sort of just barely noticeable, but it helps us be present and mindful. And we see this in our clinical trials when we look at the signs of nervous system change and cognitive performance.
Would you list the 7 different modes for us, please, so that we can learn a little bit about when to use them and what each mode is doing to our body?
Sure. And they start with energy and wake up, social, which is the highest energy state, and that boosts parasympathetic tone, this rest and digest recovery nervous system tone a little bit, but it's mostly focused on giving us a little boost of energy and a little tiny gentle boost of sympathetic tone that just helps us, for example, transition from sleep when we're having trouble waking up in the morning or having energy during the day to waking up. And that's what it's really the best for. And you can get a nice boost in 5 or 10 minutes with that. And then social and open is what it says. It's like really great for socializing and especially when we're tired. But it's particularly effective also for creative work, which is really interesting, and brainstorming in groups we found. And then clear and focus is, as it says, it is great for deep work when you really need to focus on something for an extended period of time, like a couple hours. And then we also have found that people use it to help with relieve headaches. And they've also had it, it's my favorite for public speaking. And so those are all the clear and focus, social, and low energy and wake up. These are all the higher energy state frequencies and then and modes. And then the middle ground is rebuild and recover, which is the best for any post-stress, mental, physical, emotional, what have you, or post-physical workout. It's great for recovery and helps bring, that we've seen in a trial at the University of Minnesota and the University of Pittsburgh in NCAA athletes, that we can bring down heart rate more quickly and respiratory rate, and also increase heart rate variability within just 2 minutes after exercise. And that's really exciting because that correlates with people's ability to perform better in the same task afterwards. And then we go into the more calming frequencies, which are meditation and mindfulness, and then relax and unwind, and then sleep. And those are kind of as described. And the way that these work is they're basically, if you think about music we hear changes the way we feel, and it changes our energy. Fast, loud music makes us more energized. Calm, soothing music makes us more calm. This is basically music that I composed based on the neuroscience of the way these frequencies affect the body, but they're just sound waves at a very low frequency that we feel through the skin. So it's music composed for the skin rather than for the ears. And that helps, sort of nudge us into these different energy states and make transitioning more simple.
I've been quite enjoying using the mindfulness and meditation mode to just to focus on my work. Is that commonly reported?
Yeah, I actually do that as well. We found that there's different commonalities in groups of people that have slightly different experiences with the settings and the modes. So you bring up a really interesting point, and this is something that has affected me as well, is that I am, for the most part, a higher energy individual. I like to do lots of things. I like to keep myself busy, mind and body. So for me to focus on something for a while, I liked something that's a little more calming. And so the meditation and mindfulness is what we originally called the Buddha master, or calm flow. And where we called the focus mode, the clear and focus, was the freshness, or peak flow or peak focus, clear and focus flow. And so that's how these sort of got their names, is we just tested them in thousands of people and then put them through clinical trials. And we looked at all of these reports and subjective reports and data from all these people. And we found over time that people were starting to report different consistencies, and sometimes those consistencies correlated with personality. And the more we talked to people about their experiences, the more we learned.
How quickly should somebody expect to see benefits of wearing Apollo?
It definitely varies depending on the individual. So, our studies in the lab have shown that under acute stress, in the moment of stress, where you have something really frustrating or difficult you're trying to do cognitively or physically, then really predictively cognitively, like any kind of mental work, paperwork, particularly things we don't like to do, we see people getting effects within 3 minutes. And this was a reliable finding with just 2 modes across 80% of the people that we tested. In healthy individuals, we saw this correlation of improved performance and improved heart rate variability within 3 minutes. So that was really an exciting finding, because we know that that's how long it takes to see a significant change occur in the body itself. Now, going back to how quickly does the effect come on is really more about how quickly you notice the effect. And so that really varies across people widely. And some people are more sensitive to touch, and some people are less sensitive to touch. And some people are more aware of what's going on in their bodies, and some people are completely unaware, for the most part, of what's going on in their bodies, unless something dramatic changes. People notice an effect when they use it according to our recommendations of use. We usually see effects ranging from right away in people who are stressed out in that moment, or people who have like chronic PTSD or autism or ADHD, all the way through sometimes, a couple days. Thinking about this in the context of our current treatments for depression or PTSD or SSRIs, serotonin reuptake inhibitors, and they take 4 to 6 weeks for people to start seeing an effect. So this is a much more rapid timescale.
Tell me more about how you know that Apollo definitely works.
As a man of science, we and my whole group, we're well-published scientists, and we have a lot of other things to do with our time. I see patients. I co-run a nonprofit, and we all have lots to do. And so we want to make sure, when we were starting to think about in 2016 investing our entire livelihood and lives into a business, that we needed to convince ourselves that this was actually something that was worth investing our time in, and so that we could give it our all. If we had any hesitations about it, it would just prevent us from really investing everything we needed to invest in it, time-wise and resource-wise, to make it go. And that's just the reality of anything you do. That's what we call it, buy-in. And so what we did is we ran the most rigorous form of clinical trial that there is, basically, which is called a double-blind, randomized, placebo-controlled crossover study. So the way that these kinds of studies work is you recruit people. We start with healthy subjects, so that there's no bias towards recovery, because we do see that in chronically ill populations and studies sometimes where there's a very, very strong placebo effect, and there's less of that in healthy subjects. And then we blinded all the subjects and all the researchers so that nobody knew what frequencies they were getting. And we gave them the Apollo frequencies, and we gave them active placebo frequencies that were known to increase attention and awareness, like a cell phone buzz, and other frequencies that were known to calm the body, like tapping, and then no frequency conditions. And we measured EEG brainwave patterns and EKG heart rate variability and heart rate and breath, respirations, and pupillometry, how the pupils change in response to stress and cognitive performance tasks. And we measured physical movement and sweat from the skin. And all of this information was time synced together in a electromagnetically shielded room in one of the only labs of its kind, not only at the University of Pittsburgh, but actually in the country. There are very few labs that can take this kind of high-level time sync data. And so we looked at all of this data over time in people who had no idea what frequencies they were getting, doing these incredibly stressful tasks that NASA gives to astronauts to induce a state of futility, where you just feel like you just want to give up. Like, you just keep wanting to, they keep asking to do this task of adding numbers, which is very, very simple, and it's really easy to do, but after a minute, you just want to give up. And so when we gave Apollo to people, what we saw in this task, Apollo frequencies, I should say, what we saw in this task that was unique to those frequencies is that they increased heart rate variability within 3 minutes. And heart rate variability is this biomarker that is measured by lots of wearables now because of its importance, but it's been found to be correlated with improved performance and improved functioning of the body in general and improved ability to adapt to stress and to recover from stress. And so Apple Watch and Oura Ring and Whoop and all of these different wearables measure heart rate variability, in addition to the military and athletes, elite athletes. So we found that as heart rate variability increased within this 3-minute time window of this stressful task, which is almost impossible to increase performance on with anything except amphetamines, we saw that performance increases correlated directly with heart rate variability increases. And this was a significant finding, which was really fascinating. It's actually one of the first times that in science that it's been shown that a biomarker like heart rate variability actually correlates with cognitive performance on a stressful task in the moment, which is why archers, for instance, take deep breaths, because breathing and intentional breathing boosts heart rate variability. And so they breathe in such a way, all sharpshooters do this actually, and they breathe in such a way, and many athletes in military, the Navy SEALs we know do this, so that they can bring their nervous system into balance to be in what many of us call flow, to enhance our performance under stress. So basically from all these measures that I described to you in this rigorous task, we show that Apollo effectively has the evidence that suggests that it reliably induces a state of flow in the body, and that correlates with almost everyone's subjective experience. But it was a significant finding.
When you came up with the idea, who did you have in mind as your typical user?
We really wanted to make this accessible to everyone. And I think that has always been the dream, because we recognize that mental health is more important than mental illness. Mental health is the goal that we all seek, and most of us could benefit from a little boost in mental health, myself included. There's no doubt about it, and I think if we don't admit that, we're probably lying to ourselves. And so mental health just means trying to improve our functioning and our quality of life and our ability to have balance in our lives as much as possible and not feel anxious and worried all the time. And it turns out that anxious worry actually contributes to these imbalances in the nervous system that we were talking about earlier, where it boosts activity in our stress response. And so Apollo helps to reduce that and reduce that imbalance, just like breath work, and start to retrain the brain through a learning mechanism, just like breath work or meditation. And so the more that we practice breath work meditation, the better we get at it and the quicker the effects come on. Similarly with Apollo, the more that people use it, the more sensitive they become to it and the quicker the effects come on, which is really interesting. So it doesn't have like a habituation or tolerance effect. It actually has the opposite, which is what we call a learning effect. So this is really important, and this is important to me as an addiction psychiatrist, to make sure that we provided that to the community, which is a technology that actually helps teach us about our bodies and teach us how to heal, rather than making us dependent on something outside of ourselves that we require. And so effectively, as you use Apollo, it is literally retraining our bodies to be more resilient over time, just like meditation and deep breathing. And that's sort of what I was mentioning earlier about when I do public speaking. It's actually helped me become a much better public speaker, without a doubt. So originally the vision was, let's create this in such a way that we can make it available and accessible to as many people as possible. But the inspiration for the technology and for the real idea that we originally had at the very, very beginning stemmed from my work with patients who had treatment-resistant PTSD and addiction disorders, substance use disorders that were mostly veterans. They were military veterans. And working with these people was just an incredible experience for me. And I learned as much from working with those people as I did from actually, sitting in class. I mean, it was maybe more. It was an incredible experience to work with them, and I still do. And so being able to help those people understand how they think and how they process, emotional information and trauma, and how that impacts their lives, and what they can do to recover using the skills they have, all of these things, and really asking them questions about how they felt and what they were struggling with, really gave me an incredible wealth of knowledge of their firsthand experience to help develop a technology that really got to the source of their trauma, which is not feeling safe. And so understanding that and combining that with all the incredible research that's been done by people like Eric Kandel and who won the Nobel Prize in 2000 and many others over the last 100 years, we now were able to put all that together and create this technology for the world. So it didn't just have to be for people with PTSD, and ultimately now we found that it's actually extremely effective for lots of things, all of the things that are the goals, stated 7 goals on the app. It doesn't need to be just for people who are sick. It can be for everyone, and we actually have many more people using it who are not sick than who are.
I was wearing it yesterday and I felt quite anxious about something, and I really wanted Apollo to immediately make me feel safe and calm and better. But given what you've just said, should I really be looking more long term and get into my mind the idea that wearing this more often would help me to be overall perhaps a less anxious person, less inclined to feel that way?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely the best way to think about it. I think, part of the problem with the way that we approach medicine and healing these days, particularly for mental illness, is we expect there to be an instant fix. We expect that we can do something and it'll instantly make us feel better. And that expectation is fundamentally why it is so hard to engage in new healing practices, because almost no natural healing practice works that quickly. So, and meditation and yoga and breath work included. It takes some time and practice to engage. So I think the best way to approach something like Apollo is to expect that as you use it with our recommendations of use, over the course of a few days to a week, you will start to see changes. And I think the first changes that most people see are in their sleep and wake cycles and their energy levels during the day, and their ability to fall asleep and get good quality rest at night. Those are the 2 major first things that most people notice. And then there are some people who will notice a significant improvement to restlessness or anxiety in the moment of need, but that's not everyone. And so, and also not every mode is right for every time you feel anxious. So if you feel anxious in a social situation when you're around people, social and open at a low intensity is typically the way to go. And if you're feeling anxious about work or something to do with work and you need to work, clear and focus is the way to go. But if you're feeling anxious generally, or meditation and mindfulness, but if you're feeling anxious about work and you want to calm down and wind down before bed, or hang out with your friends or family in a quiet, relaxed environment, relax and unwind is the way to go. And so, it's the goal or the intention, as we say, about the experience is actually much more important than anything else. And so focusing on our goals is how we make our goals actually manifest in our lives. Apollo just helps facilitate that a little bit.
Ahead of this interview, I know I emailed you and mentioned that there had been a couple of times where I wanted to use Apollo, but it just wouldn't connect with the app. Well, since then, I've come to realize I may be just burning through the battery too quickly. That might be the problem, because I've been wearing it so much, and I quite enjoy just having this kind of comforter on my arm. So when I try and open the app, it won't open. It says scanning, scanning, scanning. And then when I go and connect it to the charger, then I appear to be able to open it up.
So that just means your device was dead.
Oh, okay.
And then if you plug it in for a couple hours, you'll get a full charge, and that should give you 8 to 10 hours potentially. If you use it based on the schedule that we've developed from all of the case studies that we've done and all of the clinical trials we've done and all of the people out in the real world who are telling us how they use it, that schedule and those intensity guidelines can help you maximize your battery life and also help you get the most out of your experience overall. I get 2.5 days out of it before I have to charge it again. I think one of the biggest things about battery life in these technologies is this is the first technology that we have that's used vibration in this way. And so, naturally, these kinds of things use a lot of energy. Like, we don't actually have anything that we wear on our bodies or that we use as technology that vibrates, all the time. So it's great, and I'm really glad you're getting such a good experience from it. But again, the battery life will continue to improve as we're able to release more updates and and deliver the frequencies more efficiently.
Yeah, I think I have just been turning the wave intensity up too high and wearing it repeatedly for too long. It's because I'm enjoying it. I like the feeling.
That's great, and I'm so glad to hear that. And the nice part is two things. You can't hurt yourself by using it. So the more you use it, the more it actually helps retrain your brain and your body and our bodies. And then over time, we build sensitivity to it, and we learn how to access those states of peak calm more effectively on our own, or peak flow on our own. It also is a less is more thing. So a lot of people naturally think that more is more and that we want to max out the intensity from the beginning. But if we think about it more in line of music, and you wouldn't when you turn your stereo on to play music, you don't have it jacked up all the way on the volume side right when you start. We know this intuitively with music, but we don't really think about it with things like Apollo. But I think that's really the approach that we recommend, which is start low, where you just start to be able to feel the vibration, because that tends to be, for most people, where you get the best effect. And then if you want to turn it up a little bit just to make it more effective for you personally to curate your own experience, that's on you.
After getting Dave's insights, I stopped using Apollo at such high intensity levels for long and repeated periods. It seems to have worked. I haven't maxed out the battery since. Other news for you, the energy and wake up setting may have been effective today and yesterday. I wasn't convinced on day 1, but here on day 8, I felt like the stimulating pattern in the vibrations probably would have made it difficult to try and fall back to sleep to. Could wearing Apollo ever work against you? And what I mean by that is there are occasions when we need our fight or flight response. Say if I was running away from something. Could Apollo counteract that?
No. So, and that's really important, and we really focused on that when we were developing this to make sure that didn't happen. Because that does happen with a lot of other treatments that we have. For example, benzodiazepines, opioids, many medications that are sedatives do this, alcohol does this, and then things like vagal nerve stimulators and stellate ganglion blocks, which are common for many mental health conditions, also do this. They prevent the ability for the body to react. So when we were developing Apollo, what we were trying to do was not just calm the body or sedate the body and the mind. We were trying to help make the body and the mind more adaptable and more present. So it turns out that under stress, the body actually reacts better with Apollo. And so it doesn't impair the stress response. It just helps us be more present when we are stressed out or in an actual threatening situation. We haven't had that many people who have had the opportunity to use it in actually life-threatening situations, thank goodness. But there have been a few people who have told us that they've been using it they have used it in those kinds of situations, either at work or mountain climbing or what have you, and they swear by it.
Right, it is day 13 and I've got some sleep data to report. I have been wearing Apollo when I go to bed using the sleep and renew mode. According to my sleep tracking app, my sleep quality score across 5 nights before using Apollo averaged at 81.6%. After 5 nights while using Apollo, my average sleep quality score was 82%. Not much of a difference, right? But that was nearer the start of my trial. When I worked out the average of 5 nights of sleeping most recently, so the last 5 days, my sleep quality score averages at 86.2. That's a 4.6% improvement. Is there anyone who should not wear Apollo?
So not yet. We do not. I mean, we recommend, just based on standard guidelines for choking hazards, no one under 3. But we've used it on people from age 3 to 93 with all different kinds of reported or in our clinical trials, diagnosable medical conditions of all different kinds, and people who are, very sick to very well, and we haven't seen any side effects, thank goodness. So we haven't seen any contraindications that stand out in any significant way at all. And that's really exciting because that was the goal, right? Make something that's accessible to all different kinds of people so that they can use it and not necessarily have to rely on medication all the time that can potentially have more side effects.
We haven't talked about money yet. If you've reached this point in the video and you're starting to think you might like to buy an Apollo, there is a discount available for healthHackers viewers. See details in the description text that goes with this video. When you use the discount, I receive an amount too at no extra cost to you. So thank you very much for your support. And please know that this kind of arrangement does not affect what I say about a product, as you may have gathered already from watching some of my other review videos. So at the time of recording, Apollo's full cost without any kind of discount, according to their website, is $349. And I saw they've got a pay monthly option on there too. Can you tell us how you came up with the price tag for Apollo?
We did everything we could to make it as affordable as possible for a first generation product. That's effectively kind of like the category of what we call a neurostimulator product, a product that stimulates the nervous system. And if you look across the board at first gen products of this variety, they usually range in the $450 to $700 range. So, I think we did a pretty good job. We always hope to continue to make it more accessible to everyone over time.
Do you ship all over the world? And if there's any kind of technical problem, do customers have to send it all the way back to the US every time?
For your first question, yes, we do ship to many places in the world. We ship to Europe, and we ship to Canada, and we will be shipping to Australia starting in 3 weeks or so. We should be shipping to Australia, and also the UK. So those are the areas that we ship to, and know if you are in one of those areas. Canada, we ask you to return it, but the other UK, EU, Australia, we do not ask you to return it to us.
Time to sum up my likes and dislikes about Apollo, starting with the likes. I like that improved sleep quality score. I know you could argue it's a coincidence or possibly down to some other factors, but it was an interesting snapshot. I like that using the relax and unwind mode in the evening feels quite nice on my arm, and the vibration pattern on the energy and wake up mode has felt stimulating in the mornings. Sometimes I've been wearing it on my forearm where I've previously had repetitive strain injury, and I liked the way the wristband maybe helped stabilize my muscle whilst delivering gentle vibrations on the area when I'm working at my computer. This is not an official use for the device though, it's just something personal I noticed. It works in airplane mode if you have concerns about EMFs. It's also handy being able to stop, start and change the intensity on the device rather than having to open the app on your phone each time. I don't find the size too bulky. If you think about its function and how this is an early iteration, it's fine. And I have quite narrow wrists. My final like is that it was developed by physicians and neuroscientists, and as the website claims, is proven to improve heart rate variability. Remember, having high HRV can mean you're more resilient to stress. Now, I don't have an HRV tracker, so unfortunately I can't tell you how or if it had any effect on my heart rate variability. Now for my dislikes. Although dislike sounds a bit of a harsh heading for the points I'm about to make, really these are just further views that are personal to my experience with Apollo. I don't feel like the device has made a major impact on me personally. I've spent a significant amount of time thinking about how to phrase this point because I never want to record a conclusion that turns out to be incorrect or unfair, especially when a device might be life-changing for the next person who uses it. But for me, personally, and without knowing if it affected my heart rate variability, I feel like I could live without it. Also, I'm not a big fan of wearing wristbands or ankle bands. I rarely even wear watches or bracelets, but that's not Apollo's fault. And finally, it can take a couple of seconds longer than I'd like to connect to Apollo when you open up the app. But even I can see that probably just means I'm an impatient elder millennial. Before I go, standard warning as always, nothing in this video should be considered medical advice. Talk to your doctor about your health. And don't forget to check out details of that healthHackers discount if you want to get an Apollo. That's it, thank you for watching, bye bye.